They said she wouldn't make it to her next birthday. At only 7 years old, little Emma's world was reduced to sterile hospital rooms, for drips, and the haunting sound of beeping monitors. She had stopped asking when she could go home. Hope had become a fragile thing in her small, tired eyes. But what nobody expected, what even the doctors couldn't explain, was that the furry companion lying silently by her bed would change everything. Emma had always been a spirited child, with golden curls that bounced as she danced around the living room, and laughter that seemed to light up every corner of the house. Her parents, Mark and Claire Thompson, adored her beyond words. She was their only child after years of infertility, and when Emma finally came into their lives, she became their everything. Then came the diagnosis. At first, it was just fatigue. Emma would tire easily, fall asleep during playtime, complain of aches. Then came the fevers, the bruises, and the terrifying hospital visit that turned their lives upside down. Acute myeloid leukemia, aggressive, rare, and in Emma's case, resistant to treatment. The doctors were gentle but honest. They tried rounds of chemotherapy, experimental drugs, even considered a bone marrow transplant, but Emma's body was shutting down faster than medicine could catch up. The once cheerful little girl became frail, her cheeks sunken, her body wrapped in wires and medical tape. Her laughter faded. So did her smile. Mark and Claire were devastated. Claire spent most nights curled up in the hospital room chair, whispering lullabies through her tears. Mark held Emma's hand and prayed silently. But even he could feel hope slipping away. It was during one of the darkest days, when doctors began preparing the Thompsons for palliative care, that Emma uttered something unexpected. "Can I see Max?" Max was their German shepherd, fiercely loyal, intelligent, and protective. He'd been with the family since Emma was 2, and the bond between them was more than just pet and child. Max had grown up beside her, guarded her crib, chased her through parks, and nuzzled her gently whenever she cried. But due to hospital policy, Max hadn't been allowed to visit. Claire looked at Mark, then at Emma's pale face. "We'll find a way," she promised, her voice cracking. And they did. After days of pleading, letters to hospital administrators, and desperate calls, the hospital finally granted a one-time exception. Max could visit, briefly, under supervision, and only if he remained calm. It felt like a small miracle. The day Max arrived, Emma's room changed. The sterile chill that had loomed like a shadow warmed with anticipation. Nurses smiled. Doctors paused. Mark held his breath as the hospital volunteer opened the door. Max walked in slowly, as if he understood the gravity of the moment. He didn't bark. He didn't lunge. He padded quietly to Emma's bedside, eyes locked on the tiny figure lying still beneath the covers. Then he placed his head gently on the edge of the bed and let out a soft, mournful whine. Emma stirred. For the first time in days, her lips moved. "Max!" Tears welled in Claire's eyes. Mark gripped the chair to keep from collapsing. Emma's tiny fingers reached out, trembling, and touched Max's fur. And then, the impossible happened. Emma smiled. From that moment on, everything changed. Max wasn't just a visitor, he became her lifeline. The hospital, moved by the overwhelming response and seeing no harm, allowed Max daily visits. Nurses began scheduling their rounds around Max's time with Emma. Something unexplainable was happening. Emma, who'd stopped eating, began asking for food. Slowly at first, just a few bites when Max was in the room. Then more. Her vitals, once erratic, stabilized. Her immune system, previously deteriorating, began showing signs of recovery. The doctors were baffled. "It's not medical," one of them said, shaking his head. It's something else." Max never left her side. He'd lie beside her bed during treatment, his presence calming her fears. At night, he'd curl at the foot of the bed, rising only when Emma stirred or cried out. Emma talked to him, confided in him, smiled at him. With every gentle nudge of his nose and every soft whimper, Max gave her strength. Weeks turned into months. Emma's color returned. She began to sit up, draw, even walk a few steps down the hallway with Max leading the way. Her laughter returned, light at first, like the memory of a song, but it grew. Hospital staff began calling her the miracle girl. Doctors shook their heads in disbelief. "We don't understand it," one said, his voice cracking, "but this dog, he's healing her." Emma's recovery wasn't linear, and there were scares. Infections. Weakness. Days when it seemed the darkness might return. But Max never faltered. On one such day, when Emma was struggling to breathe, the machines beeping frantically, Max stood up on her bed, nudged her gently, then howled, a long, sorrowful sound that echoed down the hospital hallway. The nurses came running. Emma was crashing, but they caught it in time. If Max hadn't alerted them, the outcome might have been different. After that, Max was given unofficial status as Emma's medical alert companion. He wasn't just allowed in the hospital, he became part of the care team. Then came the day the doctors had once thought impossible. Emma was in remission. Tears flowed freely as her oncologist delivered the news. "We can't explain it," he said, his voice trembling. The turnaround, the way her body responded, it's unheard of. Claire collapsed into Mark's arms. Emma, clutching Max, simply whispered, "We did it." The day Emma walked out of the hospital, Max by her side, the staff lined the hallways, applauding, crying, laughing. Some dropped to their knees to pet Max, whispering thanks through tears. He didn't understand the words, but he felt the love. A month later, Emma and Max were invited to a medical conference. The story had gone viral. Scientists, doctors, researchers wanted to meet the dog who brought a dying girl back from the brink. But it wasn't the science that stayed with people, it was the story. Of love. Of loyalty. Of a bond that medicine couldn't explain but everyone could feel. Today, Emma is a healthy teenager. She and Max, now older, slower, still take long walks together. Every year on the anniversary of her remission, they visit the hospital to deliver toys to children and therapy dogs to the wards. Max is treated like royalty. And every time a parent looks at him with hope in their eyes, Emma gently says, "Believe in love." It heals in ways we can't always see. Because sometimes, the greatest medicine doesn't come from a bottle or a syringe. Sometimes, it has 4 legs, a beating heart, and eyes that see straight into your soul. And that's what brought the doctors to tears.